Please now give rise to the motivation of bodhicitta, thinking, I, by all means, will establish all mother beings, limitless in number, as the vast reaches of space, at the level of perfect, complete enlightenment. To that end, I will listen to this profound Dharma and put it into practice accordingly. What teaching are we looking at today? We are looking at a teaching by the great treasure revealer Karma Lingpa, a teaching that instructs us on the 6 Bardos, the 6 intermediate states from his treasure cycle, the self-liberated, peaceful and wrathful deities. Whatever Dharma teaching we might be practicing, applying, listening to, and so forth, it is vital that we infuse that Dharma activity with the threefold excellence. We could just say that with the 3 excellences: the excellent preparation of bodhicitta, the excellent main part beyond reference, and the excellent conclusion of dedication. This means that at the beginning of whatever Dhamma practice or activity we're doing, so today, for instance, listening to this profound teaching, this profound instruction of Karma Lingpa, we should begin with bodhicitta, giving rise to the motivation to establish all sentient beings in enlightenment, and to that end, we think, I'm listening to this teaching by Karma Lingpa, these profound instructions on the great perfection. I will put them into practice so that I'm able to benefit beings in a vast way. Then secondly, we have the excellent main part without reference points, and this means to practice, to apply the instructions for all of the 6 Bardos, the Bardo of this life, meditation, dream, death, dharmata, and becoming, without reference points, without concept. And then we have the excellent conclusion of dedication, which means at the end of our practice, whatever practice it might be, today, tomorrow, in the future, at all times, we conclude by dedicating whatever roots of virtue we've accumulated to the benefit of all beings. We give away our virtue for the benefit of others. So these are the 3 excellences, and whatever Dharma practice we do, we must embrace that practice with these 3 excellences. Okay, so the teaching that we are going to be looking at today is a treasure teaching revealed by Karma Lingpa, by this great Mahasiddha Karma Lingpa. It's called the Profound Dharma, the self-liberated wisdom of the peaceful and wrathful deities, instructions on the 6 Bardos, or the 6 intermediate states. To my knowledge, this is not translated in English, but anyway, I'll share the Tibetan later on today. Where does this teaching come from? It comes from the great master Karma Lingpa. Karma Lingpa was an extraordinary master, a treasure revealer, and a great Mahasiddha, one of the greatest masters to grace the land of Tibet. There are 5 famous Lingpas. Lingpa is a name often given to treasure revealers. From among all the treasure revealers who appeared in Tibet, there are 5 most especially famous and renowned Lingpas, treasure revealers called Lingpa. We could say islanders. There's Sangye Lingpa, who appeared in the center of Tibet, Dorje Lingpa, who appeared in the east, Ratna Lingpa, who appeared in the south, Pema Lingpa, who appeared in the west, and then Karma Lingpa, who appeared in the north. Karma means activity, right? And north is the direction where we find the activity Buddha family. And furthermore, the text that we'll be looking at today specifically is a commentary, or more literally, a supportive instruction for this instruction by Karma Lingpa on the 6 Bardos. So a few more words about Karma Lingpa, this great treasure revealer, whose treasure instruction we will be looking at today. So Karma Lingpa was born in Dakpo, the area in Tibet called Dakpo. He was born to his father, Nima Sangye, his mother, Dawa Droma. He was born in 1326 and lived until 1386, so he lived for around 60 years. He revealed during the course of his life many treasure teachings, and from among the inconceivable treasures he revealed, one is called the great liberation upon hearing, known more commonly in English as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It's also called in Tibetan Kaling Shitro, the peaceful and wrathful teachings of Karma Lingpa, and the instructions on the Bardo that we're looking at today come from this cycle, this treasure cycle. So what do we mean by Bardo? Bardo is a Tibetan word, right? It literally means in the middle, in between 2 things. So we could translate it into English as intermediate state. we have different types of Bardo, the 6 Bardos, 4 Bardos, and so on. We can also talk about an essential ultimate Bardo and relative Bardos. So just a note on the translation, I'll just use the Tibetan word Bardo today and tomorrow, since I think everyone's pretty familiar with that. But in English, if we were to translate it into English, then we could say intermediate state. So there are different types of Bardos. If we think from the perspective of the innate condition, the basic state of all things, namely natural awareness and abiding naturally within awareness, well, then there is no Bardo. You're present directly in the natural state, in Rigpa, and you're not in between two things. There is no intermediate state in that sense. And so this is the essence, the ultimate nature of the Bardo, the state free of confusion. You're not in between. There's nothing to be in between in that sense in the ultimate Bardo. But then we don't remain in that state, right, as sentient beings. So that is how things are in the fundamental nature, the innate condition, but not remaining, recognizing that state, then appearances manifest from the basic ground, from that state. And it's as appearances manifest from that state that the 6 Bardos then unfold, that they manifest one after the other. So we can think of how things are presented in the context of the Madhyamaka teachings. There we have a presentation of the relative and the ultimate, right? The relative is said to be the domain of conceptual mind, and the ultimate is that the ultimate nature of things, the true nature, the fundamental condition of things. And so likewise, we can think of Bardo in the same way. We can think of relative Bardo in the sense of a relative Bardo and an ultimate Bardo. Relative Bardo, the relative Bardos are the 6 Bardos or the 4 Bardos, depending on which categorization system we follow. Then you might say, oh, well, hold on, the 6 Bardos include the Bardo of Dharmata and also meditation. Are those not ultimate states? Well, actually, no, those are aspects of the path. They're aspects of the path. They involved the notion of something to be discarded, something to be attained, and so on. So actually, they pertain to the relative, not the ultimate. The ultimate Bardo, what is that? That is the natural state, the ultimate condition beyond all constructs, elaboration, the original ground, the primordial ground, Rigpa. So therefore here, when we say Bardo, then we can understand that the ultimate Bardo is to rest in the natural state, the innate condition without any confusion, and that is none other than the wisdom state of Samantabhadra. That is the basic ground. But then when appearances arise from the basic ground, the 6 relative Bardos manifest. So first of all, the Bardo of birth, then the Bardo of death. From the Bardo of death comes the Bardo of Dhammata. From the Bardo of Dhammata, the Bardo of becoming. And then we have 2 further Bardos that relate to the path, the remedy, the Bardo of dream and meditation. We should understand that all practices and all essential points of practice are included in the 6 Bardos and in these instructions on the 6 Bardos that we're going to be looking at. For instance, in the context of Madhyamaka, we have the relative truth and ultimate truth, and all phenomena and all practices can be included in that framework of relative and ultimate truth, right? Likewise, in the Prajna Paramita teachings, we have the 6 paramitas, which encompass all aspects of practice, indeed, all phenomena of samsara and nirvana. Similarly, we have the levels of Mahayoga practice, Anayoga practice, which emphasize the generation and completion stage, and the way they present generation and completion stage encompasses all phenomena of ground, path, and fruition, and indeed all phenomena of samsara and nirvana. Everything is included in each of those respective frameworks, right? So likewise, here too with the instructions on the 6 Bardos, all phenomena of path, ground, and fruition. For instance, all the points of generation and completion stage. Everything, is included there completely and perfectly. Not a single thing is missing. So it's important we understand this, and we don't think that this instructions on the 6 Bardos are some kind of a separate thing. understanding this, if we practice the 6 Bardos, put these instructions into practice, we'll be putting into practice all of the essential instructions that can lead us to perfect enlightenment. While we're reading, so in the teachings of the Great Perfection, we have the 3 sections, right? The 3 sections of the Great Perfection. The mind section, space section, and pith instruction section. So all the Great Perfection instructions can be condensed into those 3 sections. We have these 3 sections. The third of the 3 sections, the pith instructions section, contains instructions on cutting through to primordial purity, trekshu, and leaping, or we could say direct crossing to spontaneous presence, togal. These 2 main types of practice, trekshu and togal. And in this pith instruction section, we also find instructions on instructions for the 5 dhammas through which one can attain enlightenment without practice. So one of these so-called 5 practices through which one can attain enlightenment without any practice is the instruction that we're looking at, or this type of instruction on the Bardo, liberation through hearing. In addition to this, there's also the what we call liberation through taste, liberation through touch, liberation through sight, and also poa, the transference of consciousness. For instance, there are some very sacred consecrated substances, which because of the power of those substances, by imbibing them, one can be liberated, or they can act as a catalyst for liberation. Likewise, certain images when seen, certain things when touched. And then the fifth of these 5 is the transference of consciousness. So these are literally described as instructions through which one can attain liberation without any practice. And you might wonder, well, how can that be possible actually? How can you attain enlightenment without doing anything? So when it says attain enlightenment without any practice, this is a manner of speech. It doesn't literally mean without doing any practice at all. But what it means is that these practices, these instructions are so profound and efficacious that through just a very little bit of practice, a tiny bit of practice, a very short duration of practice, one can attain liberation. For instance, in daily life, we might say, a rocket travels so fast through space, it's like, you don't even have to, you're there before you know it. Sometimes we use a negation to describe something that it's just really fast or takes very little time, right? So this is what's going on here when these 5 are described as instructions through which you can attain liberation without even meditating. For instance, with poa, the transference of consciousness, through just 6 or 7 days of practice, then you can achieve the signs of poa and apply that instruction. Likewise, the substances which liberate upon taste and so on, those act as immediate catalysts for the recognition of rigpa, the recognition of the nature of mind. So through very little effort and in very short time, then one can gain recognition. One can gain recognition of the natural state, and that acts then as a catalyst for liberation, enlightenment. In short, the fact that this instruction that we're looking at, the instructions on the 6 Bardos that liberate upon hearing, the fact that they're described as profound instructions through which one can attain enlightenment without practice is just describing how profound and efficacious they are. So now let's look at the instruction itself. So the supportive instruction on the 6 Bardos from the self-liberation confusion, this treasure cycle, or Karma Lingpa. This instruction contains 18 different parts. So first of all, an explanation of the essence or nature of the Bardo, then a definition of the Bardo, divisions of different types of Bardo, the nature, the defining characteristics, the dividing lines, 6 examples, 6 illustrations, 6 locations, the 6 bodies, the duration, 6 durations, the different way these bardos appear, introducing these bardos, how to put them into practice, and the 6 instructions. Furthermore, the instructions, 6 instructions, downfalls, benefits, 6 crucial statements. And yeah, so that makes 18. If we were to go through all of these in detail, we'd have to go through, well, the equivalent of hundreds of pages of text. We don't have that kind of time. We just have 2 days, right, to cover all of these profound points. So I will do this in a very concise and pithy way today and tomorrow, so that we gain an understanding of the crucial central points of all of these 18 aspects of the Bardo as they're set forth by Karma Lingpa in this text. Okay, so the Chinese audience have a Chinese translation of the 6 root lines of the 6 Bardos. So to begin with, I will go through these 6 lines and we'll focus the teaching on these 6 lines. Okay, so the root verses on the 6 Bardos. You should get a link in the chat in a second, a link to the English translation of these. So the root verses on the 6 Bardos begins, Kima, now when the Bardo of this life is dawning upon me, I will abandon laziness for which life is no time, enter undistracted the path of study, reflection and meditation, making perceptions in mind the path and realize the 3 kayas. Now that for once I have attained a human body, this is not the time to remain in the ways of distraction. So these crucial 6 verses begin with the Bardo of this life, and then they will go, they will in turn look at the Bardo of dreams, Bardo of meditation, death, dhammata, and becoming. cancel nadan ke dawa tu na shigire sege ana ke dawa su na shigire ta tin pe su tharda me ti na da hi maleb ge nguen te la aram tangbu ama khopala chane ke ne pasar mosar cha ini rang lega che lobchon che igi che tini ngaran so ge ta rang so ge chi ma ina lega tham je dub ne har ne ta lo yala shigyo na da rinzan dunjuri shigyo na da tukjuri shigyo na da chi jana sangi nangi na shi ta dang sang accident mango do dang kharni nga so tongyen chinen thang do de kala bag de dab ne choga keme ni jo choga keme kan ni jo ma da chak ne pet shenang sa uji tinde de jena da lamsa shi do ha ko sa ma ti indu kan ta shigyu se gen da ha ko ma ka du na ha ko ma re ti indu chine mat ge par ge war te la ke ne par to se ke ne be par to se ke se ne ke war ba ke se ne newa te ka chu ne ge par to ke ne par to se ti indu kan la the intermediate mare parto tipa parto mare ngarang ke wa ini chine mathum ke par ke argap tela ini parto serta chine mathe ti ngol che o ya tini ngarang zoina dati gi nawa ngola tipa pardo mayin bache tipa pardo mayin bache chika pardo ya mayin bache di gung gla ne watala ini kene pardo sa tanda ngarang sa pardo ta kirana ke la mi yap ha nazo pardo kande in ta pardo inge mare uni pardo ngarang sa pardo de de in di kangla pardo te kande jin se go re se phanjo aran so kan nawa ti dindu mi sam go re nga debr to ko debr khamba to chue debr in our past life, after and then sooner or later we will die, right? We might die at the age of 70.
刚刚提到这一段是生存中阴。首先他提到“咿呀，我于生存中因现起时”，“咿呀”这个词它是感叹词，有的时候是表示心中的一种感叹，或者有时候是内心非常忧愁的一种哀叹声，他就用“咿呀”来做表示。那再来呢，他说我是指自己，然后呢，生存中因就是现在这个阶段，生存中因指的就是我们现在出生以后正在存续，仍然活着的这个时候，我们现在就在生存中阴当中，也就是说我们正处于中阴。因为诸位会认为的中阴是什么？往往是认为好像临终中阴啊、死后的世界啊、49天啊这一类的，或者说会有极尽跟愤怒的百尊会现起的这些，或者将来有所谓的地狱、恶鬼、旁生的这些。境界像现起的时候，我们会以为那些才叫做中阴。实际上，此处所讲的生存中阴，就是我们现在正处的状态。为什么这样说呢？你可能会想， 我现在为什么是在生存中阴当中呢？实际上，刚刚提到了中阴的意思就是不是这一边，也不是那一边，它不是两个端点，不存在于两个端点当中。像现在的生存中阴是指它既不是过去式，也不是还没有到临终，在这一段中间，它不是过去生，也不是临终，所以呢是中间，所以称为中阴。那它是在我们从母胎出生以后继续存在着的状态，所以是生存中阴。那它既不是属于前世，也不是属于不治之症发生的时候。在这边，不治之症指的是已经确定。
We've translated this Bardo into English as the Bardo of this life, but more literally in Tibetan it's the Bardo of birth and abiding, right? So what do we mean by birth, right? Well, we cannot take birth without relying on causes and conditions, right? Birth is the result of the coming together of certain causes and conditions. Without causes and conditions coming together, birth is just not possible. Birth, arising, emergence just cannot happen. So how then does this birth that we're talking about here arise? Well, and first of all, we should just say that all of the 6 bardos are connected to one another, right? They're all intertwined. So most especially the bardo of life is connected to the bardo of becoming, which is the bardo that would have preceded it. Anyway, we'll get to all of that later. So when birth occurs, when the father's semen and the mother's ovum come together, and at that time a consciousness that is in the bardo of becoming then enters the union of that sebum and ovum. In that way, a being is conceived, right? A being is conceived in the mother's womb. So we have the white essence that is the semen of the father, the red essence that is the ovum of the mother. When this couple engage in intercourse, then the sebum and ovum, the white and red essence, join together. And when they join together, the consciousness that they have a karmic connection with, or that they have a karmic debt with, will be able to enter that sebum and ovum and take birth, or be conceived in the womb. There's a sutra called the Sutra of Ananda, describing conception in the womb. That's just a rough translation. But in this sutra, we find a very detailed explanation of the process of conception. And there it's explained that every time a man and woman engage in intercourse and their semen and ovum come together, there are not just 1 or 2, but hundreds and thousands. Actually, in this sutra, it mentions 3 million beings, 3 million consciousnesses hovering around, trying to enter that sebum and ovum, trying to take birth as a human. So this is how many kind of consciousnesses will be present when a couple are lying together. But as I said, it's only the consciousness of a being that couple have a karmic connection with. And most often, it's a karmic debt, actually, so a slightly negative, heavy karmic connection that allows the consciousness of that specific being to enter the sebum and ovum and actually be conceived in the mother's womb. Even though all of those other millions of beings' consciousnesses are just desperate to take birth, they're not able to if they don't have a karmic connection. So yeah, this is how conception takes place, right? How birth takes place. So since we're humans, well, then we're talking about the process of human conception. And this we've just described. Like I said, this is explained in a lot of detail, a lot more detail in this sutra from Ananda. I'll get the precise title of that sutra later. But we don't have time to go into all of that. There's also a very detailed story that is told in the sutra. I read this sutra from beginning to end very carefully when I did a year-long retreat reading the collection, the full collected words of the Buddha. Anyway, more generally, when a being's consciousness is in the bardo of becoming and is seeking to take rebirth, different gates, different wombs will appear to that Bardo consciousness. So depending on where they are destined to take rebirth due to their karma, whether it be in the hell realm, hungry ghost realm, the god realm, the human realm, and so on, then different wombs, or we could say gateways, will appear to that being, and they'll appear where the womb leading to rebirth in their destined realm will appear very attractive to them, and so they will feel drawn towards that specific womb, and they will migrate there, they'll go there, and then they'll end up taking rebirth in that realm. So in the case of humans, well, a human that has the requisite karmic connection with father and mother will be conceived as we just described. The consciousness will enter the union of semen and ovum in the womb, and then over the course of 7 weeks, they will go through, they'll begin their stages of fetal development. After 7 weeks, there'll be some kind of vague shape and discernible shape in the womb. That is the beginning of that is the fetus. And then from then on, month after month, the fetus will continue to developing its faculties, limbs, and so on, until it is ready to be born. So this was about the process of birth. There is so much more to say actually about the process of conception. Previously, Rinpoche also referred to a story of a great practitioner in the past seeing a mother holding a baby on her lap and so on. This story is told in the words of my perfect teacher, and it illustrates the fact that most of the time when we are born to parents, we are born due to the power of our karmic debt with those parents, right, or karmic credit. Anyway, there's so much more to say about the process of conception, the different stages of fetal development, the experience of the child in the womb, the experience of the mother during pregnancy, during birth, the incredible discomfort and pain and other experiences that the mother has to endure at the time. But if you want to learn more about that, then please do look at the sutra I mentioned. And also, we find a lot of detail in Jigme Lingpa's Treasury of Precious Qualities. So you can look there as well. We are very limited on our time, so I will not say more about these things. So in the bardo of life, first of all, we take birth, and then we remain, right? Then we live for the course of this life. And we go through various stages of development in life, right? The all-knowing Longchenpa spoke of 8 stages of development. So he described human life in terms of 8 stages. The first of these 8 stages is the stage of children. So this is the period from being born up until being 10 years old. So in the past, this was the period when one was just regarded as a child and left to play. Like that was pretty much how my first 10 years went. We were just children and we were left to play most of the time. These days, though, it's not like that. Modern children from the age of 2 or 3 are given pen and paper and have to start their education. They have a satchel strapped on their back and are sent off to school or what have you. Maybe this is fortunate, maybe it's unfortunate for them, I don't know. But in any case, the first 10 years of one's life is the phase of being a child. Then we have from 10 to 20 years old. This is the phase of being a youth. So during this period, one engages in study, one commences one's education and so on. But most of this period from the age of 10 to 20 is spent on education, right? Then we have the period from 20 to 30. So this is the period of our prime. During these years, one is in one's physical prime. So one's sense faculties, one's body, one's strength, one's agility. These are in their prime. They're at their peak, their absolute peak. For a lot of you, this might be the period where you apply yourself to getting a PhD, right? Or if you're engaged in business, then you start your business career. This is the period in which you kind of establish yourself in whatever you're doing. Then we have 30 to 40. So this is the period of abiding, or we could say a stable period. It's said that for these 10 years, your faculties and so on remain pretty much as they were during the previous 10 years when you were in your prime. And most people actually gain most success in this period of life, right? From 30 to 40, but also 40 to 50. So then the next period from the age of 40 to 50 is the period of decline. So when we say decline here, we're describing the decline of the physical body, right? The sense faculties, one's eyes and ears. and the like. So when you reach 40 and go through your 40s, then you start to notice some decline in your physical strength. Maybe your eyesight starts to fade, your hearing is no longer as good as it used to be, right? But you're still engaging in, and you're still very capable of engaging in whatever your occupation is, whether it be agriculture, politics, business, whatever it is. Then the next period, 50 to 60, is the period of generation. So this is the period I'm in, right? I'm 61 or 62 now, so I am experiencing this degeneration firsthand. My eyesight is worsening. My hearing is also getting worse. My knees are starting to feel sore sometimes. Also have health problems like blood pressure, diabetes. So this is the common experience of people in this period of generation between 50 and 60. Then we have the period between 60 and 70, which is the period of aging. So here you really do begin to age full on. One's hair starts to turn gray and so on and so forth. 70, the period of 70 to 80, Longchenpa described as the period of being crooked or withered. So here one is really quite aged, becomes frail. One's teeth start to fall out and so on. Then the period from 80 to 90, he said, is the period of death. So when you reach your 80s, then death is quite close by, right? Some people, of course, might live longer, 90 from the age of 90 to 100, but then they're really close to death. Then it's sure that they will die quite soon. Very few people live to 100 these days, right? So we have these 8 stages of life as described by Longchenpa. We go through these 8 stages of life, and all of these belong to the Bardo of life, because the Bardo of life is comprised of these 8 stages, right? As the root text says, now when the Bardo of this life is dawning upon me, as I'm experiencing this Bardo of life, I will abandon laziness, for which life has no time, because this life that we're currently enjoying, it is not something permanent, it's not lasting or stable. It is impermanent, it is fleeting and transient, and moreover, there is no certainty as to how long we will live. We have no idea when we will die. We have no idea how long this life will last. So there's no time for laziness, there's no time for procrastination, there's literally no time to waste. The words that we're looking at here are, we could say they're the words of Guru Rinpoche, right? They're the words of Guru Rinpoche as revealed by the treasure revealer, Karma Lingpa. So he was the one who revealed these lines as a treasure, but the words themselves are the words of Guru Rinpoche. So Guru Rinpoche is saying, abandon laziness for which life has no time. You have no time to waste. Enter undistracted the path of study, reflection, and meditation. When we die, and we never know, we do not know when we're going to die, but when we do, then the only thing we can take with us is the Dharma that we have applied to our heart, the Dharma that we have trained in. Everything else, everything material, including our wealth, our assets and possessions, as well as our friends and other achievements, we cannot take those with us. All of those will be left behind. It's only the Dharma that will go with us. So that being the case, we need to not waste time and put this life to use. We've attained a precious human body that is so rare and difficult to obtain. In this life, we have met with a genuine teacher, we've encountered the precious Dharma. So we need to make use of this opportunity. We need to make this opportunity bear fruit. We have received ripening empowerment and liberating instruction, or if we haven't, then we should. We've encountered the teachings of the Great Perfection. We need to put these into practice, to apply them so that they bear fruit in the attainment of enlightenment.
이나야 미 제와 지게 다 드라트로 년중 폴리틱 지거나래 켄소에 성이 지거나래 다 신가답고나래 가리 지거나야 다 닥터 간에 다 원리가 연면에 주주디 집주링업 주파르더와 티 파르글라 이네 디 기틀라 나라서 옹보이는 냠비트스 이네 납주네 주주팔 때 굿비트스 때 숙점 다 빼는 가도 그래 다 고비 나 주주라 지글레서 다 원리가 하고 미 두도 조도 암조 두도 조도 깨다도 고민도 It
says study, reflection, and meditation. So here, this is a teaching of the Great Perfection. So we're talking about studying, reflecting, and meditating on the view, meditation, and conduct of the Great Perfection.
ya nyambi tu is nyam gubi tu tene gubi tu ne tene trukju ni dunju parto te gebi tu is pe ge chalo one ge tene tratham je karwo cha hain na luini karwo cha ene dunju ni gyaju pardo ge shin khok pi tu is ta pe geu na dugu tham je khaga choge cha ta pe sugu tham je na tratham je kar so tham je lu ge shin khok pi tu is 다 야준이 굽지 파도 치비티스 다 시기티스 다 상이 시고나 나이 시고는 구규래 이마도 탑시하면 돼 치비티스 야준이 굽지 때 굽주니 야네 때 시기 임바 다 티니자 야네 야투기 당선 콤보르 다 자판 솔 또도 로자투기 때또 두세 마도 시네 만초 야네 시 게신 코피티스 다 지기 깨니 게신 코피기 치비기 네 말르게 버도텔라 이 강세월스난 딜라 rangsin kene ke parto selawa tati shigu ke nama rangsin kene ke parto segures
You enter undistracted the path of study, reflection, and meditation. So, as we said, here we are looking at the Great Perfection teaching. So, when we say study, reflection, and meditation, we mean to study, reflect, and meditate on the Great Perfection. The teachings of the Great Perfection the teachings of the Great Perfection teach us the two practices of Trekcho and Togal. So Trekcho we could translate as cutting through to primordial purity, and Togal direct crossing to spontaneous presence. If we receive ripening empowerment and liberating instructions on these practices, and then we apply ourselves to them, and we practice in such a way that we develop personal experience of what is meant in the teachings, of what is pointed out in the teachings, and we practice genuinely, and we bring our experience to its full, then actually when the time of death comes, we will not have to go through the bardo of death. There'll be no need to go into any other intermediate state, just like the great masters Garabdoje, Manjushri Mitra, Shri Singha, and so many others. Without needing to go through the bardo of death or the bardo of becoming or any further intermediate states, we will attain liberation. We will manifest enlightenment in this very life, and that will be it. These great masters, like Garabdoje, Manjushri Mitra, and so on, by practicing in this way, by applying themselves in this way and attaining realization, they were able to discard, or we could say avoid, all further intermediate states. They attained the rainbow body of great transference and manifested perfect enlightenment in this very life without having to go through the process of death. So that is a very real possibility if we apply ourselves. We've all attained this precious human body. We have the great fortune to encounter the Buddha Dharma, these precious teachings of the Great Perfection, no less, to meet genuine teachers and receive guidance from them. Especially those of you here in Taiwan, you are so fortunate. So many extraordinary masters have come to Taiwan. Masters like His Holiness Penno Rinpoche, and so on. So, and they have, when coming here, they have given so many empowerments, transmissions, and paid instructions. So if you apply those precious instructions, if you put them into practice and internalize them, bring them into your own experience, then manifesting enlightenment in following in the footsteps of masters like Garabdoje is a real possibility. We don't have time to tell the stories of great masters like that, but anyway, there are countless stories of such masters who have attained accomplishment in that way. The next line reads, making perceptions in mind the path and realize the three kayas. Making perceptions in mind the path. Well, this refers to the fact that in the Great Perfection we come to understand that everything that appears is actually self-display. It is the creative display of Rigpa itself, of natural awareness. We experience external phenomena like sound, smells, taste, textures, and so on. But actually these are not, they don't exist as something else outside of us. These are just the creative display of Rigpa itself. They are a self-display of our own awareness. So making perceptions in mind the path refers to recognizing that all appearances, all perceptions and experience are just self-display. They are just tsal, just creative display, or we could say energy, the natural energy of Rigpa. Like when you look in a mirror, you see your reflection, right? That in a sense is the display of your own face. It's not some external other phenomenon, right? So in this way, we should apply ourselves and take or make perceptions in mind the path, and thereby realize the three kayas. So if we proceed in this way, we will come to realize that the empty essence of mind is the Dhammakaya, the luminous nature is the Sambhogakaya, and the unimpeded capacity is the Nirmanakaya. There's so much to say about that, but we won't go into much more detail here. If we were to explain what's meant by the three kayas in more detail, well, they can be explained in slightly different ways according to the angle of Trekchö and Tögal. And for more detail, then you need to look in Yeshe Lama or Jingzi, Treasury of Dhammadhatu, and so on. Neither of us have the time to do this at present. But anyway, just to mention that such detail is out there. So, we are currently in the bardo of this life, and in the bardo of this life, as our text says, so we need to engage in study and reflection and meditation. It's often said that through study and reflection, one cuts through doubts, or more literally, one cuts through superimposition, which I guess is basically summed up doubts and misunderstandings. Both through study and reflection, one cuts through doubts and misunderstanding. And there's also a Tibetan saying or a Tibetan instruction that says, you should be like a sparrow without any hesitation. I'm not sure sparrow is the correct or the equivalent to the Tibetan bird being referred to, but anyway, the behavior is certainly similar, so a sparrow will work just fine. We need to be like a sparrow without any free of any hesitation. So what's meant by this? Well, a sparrow, when a sparrow comes to build its nest, it does so really, really carefully. Before it starts building the nest, for a long time, for many days, it inspects the area. It flies around, checking to see, where would be a good location. Where is a place that is free of the danger of the elements, so, rain and wind and so on, and also free of the danger of other animals. Where is it going to be safe, dry, warm, out of danger? It checks and checks and checks again, and when it's sure that it has found a completely safe and appropriate place, only then does it start building its nest. And then it builds a very excellent nest, and once it's built the nest, then it no longer has any hesitation. So when it's out flying and then it arrives back at its nest, it doesn't hover around to check, are there any snakes or animals around the nest? Can I do it or not? It's already done that work beforehand, right? So without any hesitation, without any doubt, the sparrow just swoops down into its nest. So we need to be like that. We need to be like that as a result of applying ourselves in the bardo of this life. We need to make use of the bardo of this life. How so? Well, we already have the great fortune of encountering the Sublime Dharma and precious genuine teachers. We need to bring that to fruit by applying ourselves to practice, put into practice the instructions we have received. And through practice, by practice here we are referring to study, reflection and meditation, all three, we need to cut through all doubts and misunderstandings so that we reach the point where we are just like that sparrow who is flying towards their nest and who just dives down without any hesitation into it. In short, we need to develop certainty or conviction. We need to determine the nature of things and develop complete certainty. So as Padampa Sangye said, may I gain certainty free of any doubt. Mipo Rinpoche also defined the view as certainty. So Mipo Rinpoche said the view is a state of certainty, but certainty in what? Well, in this specific context, we mean certainty in the states of Trekchö and Tögal, right? These two aspects of the great perfection practice. But equally, we could say, so if you were practicing the Madhyamaka, the middle way, certainty then in the natural unity of appearance and emptiness, or at other levels of tantric practice, say the generation and completion stages, well, then certainty in those practices, right? Or certainty in whatever it is that you are applying yourself to, whether it be the practice of relying on your own body or taking another's body as a skillful means in the 6 yogas or what have you. We need to develop complete conviction and certainty in the practice, certainty free of any doubt. And if we can develop such certainty in our practice, then as a result of that certainty, we really can gain liberation through our practice and manifest enlightenment. And just as I said, if we are able to do this, reach this point in the bardo of this life, then all other bardos will come to an end. There's no need to go through the bardo of death, the bardo of becoming, or anything else. There's no need to even go through the pain and suffering of the dying process. So this is the best possible outcome, right, of the bardo of this life. If we make real, proper good use of it by applying ourselves to study, reflection, and meditation in this way, we can become just like the great masters of the past, like Garabdoje and so on, who manifested enlightenment in this very life and who attained liberation and then did not have to go through any further bardos. So that is possible for us. It is a definite possibility, but admittedly it is difficult. But nevertheless, we should understand that it really is a possibility. It's difficult, but it is possible. And there are so many masters who have achieved this feat. Not just Garabdoje and so on, but so many more, like Rongzong Mahapandita's daughter. She attained liberation in this life, and when she attained liberation, she then levitated up into the sky, and she just rose higher and higher into the sky until she disappeared from sight. And then we also have the master Pangmi Pangkongpo, who meditated, attained realization, and his whole body actually just disappeared, just dissolved into atoms and disappeared. These are just two of so many stories. So this is possible for us. In any case, we should recognize how fortunate we are. Those of you here in Taiwan are incredibly fortunate. As I said, so many great masters have graced this country with their presence. Masters like Gyabje Peno Rinpoche and others, Yangtang Rinpoche, they've all come here in the past and given a wealth of empowerments and transmissions and instructions. So having received those, you then need to put them into practice, right? You need to bring them into your experience and thereby gain certainty. Certainty in your practice, certainty in the true nature of things. And if you can do that, then you won't have to go through the bardo of death and so on. You can attain liberation and enlightenment right here in the bardo of this life. And that is how you become just like a sparrow, free of doubt. So we're talking here about the practice and teachings of the Great Perfection, but understand that these points I've mentioned about gaining certainty, conviction, becoming like a sparrow free of doubt, they apply to whatever practice you might be engaging in, whether it be the generation stage of deity practice or anything else, of whatever tradition you might be following, Sakya, Kagyu, Nyingma, Geluk. Whatever instructions you receive, if you put them into practice, follow through with them, and practice so that they bear fruit, then you can attain liberation and enlightenment in this life. And that is how to make the bardo of this life meaningful. That is how to make it a success. Otherwise, if we fail to put this bardo of life to use and we squander this opportunity, then what is going to come next? Well, after the bardo of life, inevitably comes the bardo of death. After that comes the bardo of becoming, and then the bardo of dharmata, and so on and so forth. And what will we experience in those bardos? Well, suffering, discomfort, and nothing more than that. So this is really important. We have all encountered the precious Dharma, precious teachers, and we have this extraordinary opportunity. So we need to apply ourselves to what end? To gaining certainty and conviction, and becoming just like that sparrow, free of any doubt, free of hesitation. Now that for once I have attained a human body, this is not the time to remain in the ways of destruction. So we have 2 more lines of instruction from Guru Rinpoche here. Now that for once I have attained a human body, so what does this mean? Well, it means that, yes, at present we have obtained this human body, but this is not something that we are going to attain again and again. It's not something that we're going to come across again and again, most especially to attain a human rebirth where one is a practitioner, right? Where one is engaged in the Dharma. This is not something you attain easily or often. Maybe you might attain a human rebirth again, but a human rebirth where you're a practitioner, that is incredibly rare. This is discussed in a lot of detail in the words of my perfect teacher. what is meant by a precious human body, right? A precious human birth, endowed with the 8 freedoms and 18 freedoms and advantages. In the words of my perfect teacher, you find a detailed explanation of each of those 18, together with an explanation of the examples, causes, and also number. The preciousness of difficulty of obtaining a human birth is described in terms of example, cause, and number. And when you read through that discussion, those points, then you really come to understand how incredibly difficult, almost impossible it is to attain a precious human body. To attain just a human rebirth, a common human rebirth, is something extraordinarily difficult, and to attain a precious human rebirth is something even more difficult. This human body is like a boat. Often it's likened to a boat. So if you have a huge river, like the river you have here in Taipei, you cannot cross a river just on your own right. You need the support of a boat to take you across, to ferry you across to the other side. So this human body is like a ship that can take us across the ocean of samsara to the far shore of liberation. So if we want to free ourselves from the ocean of samsara and get to the far shore, then we need this human body, this precious human body. But this is not something that we're going to get easily again and again. That being the case, since we have now for once attained this incredibly difficult to attain human body, this is not the time to remain in the ways of distraction. So there is no time to waste here. There is no time to waste. What do we mean by the ways of distraction? Well, actually, all worldly activities, all worldly occupations are ways of distraction. Often, I know many people say, oh, there's a teaching on today, yes, but I don't have time to go. I'm busy with my business. I have some work to do. I have this and that to go to. Well, all of those other occupations that you prioritize over the Dharma, those are all just ways of distraction. Those are all mundane activities, and all mundane activities are ways of distraction, full stop. We talk about being free or not being free, right? Like, oh, there's a teaching on, but I'm not free, so I can't come. But what we actually mean by being free is whether we prioritize it or not, right? We are not free to do things we don't prioritize, but we are free to do things we prioritize, right? So if you can't come to the teaching, well, that means you're still free to do your business, right? That's why you're free to do your business but not come to the teaching, well, because you prioritize that, right? You think your business is more important than listening to the Dharma. So that's basically what is meant by when we say I'm free or I'm not free. That's basically what we're saying. We're just expressing our priorities. For instance, if someone says, oh, do you have time to do this job that is really badly paid? You'll say, oh, I don't have time for that. But then if someone says, do you have this time to do this job that's really well paid? Oh, yeah, I'm free to do that. You find the time, right, because you prioritize. So, Buddha Shakyamuni and also the Bodhisattva Shantideva spoke about the 8 worldly concerns, right? The 8 worldly concerns of praise, fame, recognition, and so on. All of these are ways of distraction. They are they are mundane activities and ways of distraction, and we find much more explanation about this in words of my perfect teacher and other such texts. In short, we need to recognize that time is incredibly precious. Every single minute and second is precious, and we need to put every single minute and second of this bardo of life to use. If we are not able to bring this bardo of life to fruition and attain and practice and gain a foothold on the path, make progress towards enlightenment now, then there's no chance that we will be able to do that later on. So we need to apply ourselves minute by minute and thereby gain a steady foothold on the path to enlightenment. So now let's move on to the next verse. Kema, alas, now when the bardo of dreams is dawning upon me, I will abandon the heedless corpse-like sleep of ignorance. So now we turn to the bardo of dreams, which is basically our sleeping period. So the bardo of dreams does not just refer to when we're actually actively dreaming during sleep, but it refers to the entire period of our sleep. So at the end of the day, we fall asleep. From then until the time when we wake up the following morning, all of that is the bardo of dreams. So this bardo of dreams is an intermediate state or in between what? It's the intermediate state between the waking life of today and the waking life of tomorrow, right? That period of sleep between today and tomorrow is the bardo of dreams. For most of us, our dream, when we do actively dream during sleep, most of the time we just dream. Our dreams are just a reflection of the habits that we've developed during the daytime. So whatever we do in the daytime, whether it's practice and meditation, then we'll probably find ourselves practicing and meditating in our dreams. If we're engaged in business or if we are very aggressive and short-tempered during the day, then we'll experience those same things in our dreams. That's how the majority of dreams go. Sometimes you can have dreams that are actually a reflection of habits from your past lives or experiences from past lives. That is possible. And it's also possible to experience clairvoyance or prescience in dreams. Even for ordinary people, this is possible because we all have Buddha nature, right? So as an expression or manifestation of Buddha nature, or we could say the creative power of Rigpa, then often in the early hours, around 3 or 4 a.m., then it's possible to have clairvoyant dreams, to dream of something that plays out exactly as you dreamt it the following day, or maybe years later. So like I said, this is possible for ordinary people as well, because we have Buddha nature. Such dreams are rare, but they are possible. In Taiwan, you guys go to sleep so late, like at 11 or 12, and you sleep then late into the morning till around 9. This is really not good, actually. It's not good for your health, and it's also not good for Dharma practice. For one's health and also for Dharma practice, it's better to sleep early and wake early. This keeps one's body fresh, one's subtle channels fresh. So yeah, that is what we should do. Sleep early, wake early. In the Bardo of Dream, what we need to do is train so that we can recognize our dreams. But we're not going to reach that point if we don't apply ourselves during the daytime. So being able to practice and make use of the Bardo of Dreams is a result of engaging in practice in the day. The best possible way to practice in the Bardo of Dreams is to recognize that state, to recognize luminosity in the Bardo of Dreams so that one doesn't dream at all. Second best is to be aware during one's dreams and be able to actually use them to emanate out illusory forms and bring benefit to others, to travel places in one's dreams and benefit others in that way. And the third best is to just be able to recognize your dreams, whether it's a nightmare or a great dream, just to recognize, oh, this is a dream. All of these are signs of practice. And if you can recognize if you can recognize that you're dreaming at night, then that's a sign that you've developed at least a little bit of practice. So at the very least, we should try and reach that point. It's said that if you can recognize your dreams at night, then if you can recognize that you're dreaming while dreaming, then you will be able to recognize that you're in the Bardo, because the Bardo of becoming after death. And again, all of these attainments, greater, medium, and lesser in the Bardo of dreams, they all stem from our daytime practice, right? They're all a reflection of our daytime practice, whether it be the practice of Trekja, Toga, the 6 yogas, or what have you. And settle the mind in its natural state without distraction. So what we mean by mind here is not conceptual mind, actually, or ordinary mindfulness, but Rigpa. Ideally, we should settle our mind in its natural state, mix our awareness with luminosity, and sleep like that, so that we don't actually fall into a deep sleep and we don't actively dream. Or when we lie down to sleep, another approach would be to visualize ourselves as the deity, as taught in the generation and completion stages, and to fall asleep like that. If we fall asleep like that, then as a result, our dreams will be pure, not impure. There are many other ways to train in luminosity in dreams, like visualizing a white syllable R in your heart center, visualizing light rays radiating out, gathering back, and so on and so forth. We don't have time to go into all of these instructions, though, but needless to say, there are these and many other ways to make use of the Bardo in dreams and train in luminosity during that time. The most important thing is to recognize awareness, right? To recognize Rigpa and recognize that everything that appears in your dreams, outside your dreams, in short, everything that appears and exists, is nothing other than the display of Rigpa. the
达
creative
到什么样子
display
的
of Rigpa itself.
状态。特别
And if we
是
can
当我们
recognize that,
之所以要
then
文法
if we
的
can
目的
recognize
在
that
于要断。
completely, then we actually won't actively dream, we will not fall into confusion at all. Second best, then we will dream, but those dreams will be pure. And third best, we will have all sorts of dreams, but we will recognize that we are dreaming. For instance, if we have a nightmare, we'll recognize that, oh, this is just a dream, and then our fear will disappear. Or if we have a really blissful dream, we'll recognize, oh, this is just a dream, and our attachment will dissipate. Khenpo Daza Rinpoche said that he said, you know, if you have really strong attachment and aversion during waking life, then there's really no chance that you will recognize the bardo and be liberated in the bardo, meaning in the bardo after death. He said, you know, whatever your state of mind is and your behavior is like in waking life, well, that is how, yeah, you will be in the bardo after death. So someone who's really aggressive and full of attachment just is not likely to recognize or forget about attaining liberation in the bardo after death. On the other hand, someone who is very tamed, who has less emotion, who is very gentle, who is vividly aware that all appearances are just illusory, just like illusions and dreams, and has less attachment and reification, they stand a good chance of being able to recognize the bardo for what it is when they reach the bardo. So that's an important point to keep that in mind. Like I said, the way that, or the level of, the way we're able to practice in the bardo of dreams or not is all a reflection of the level of our practice as developed in waking life. In a sense, whether we're able to recognize our dreams or not and so on is all a reflection, or we could say it's a measure of our practice, a measure of where we're at. Likewise, when we encounter in life illnesses, obstacles, conflict and so on, and then the way we respond is a reflection of our practice, right? Those are tests, those kind of adversities are tests and measures. It's like if you have a hero, right? You only can really recognize that someone's a hero when they're out on the battlefield. Before war breaks out and before they go off to fight, you cannot say, oh, this person's a hero, right? They can only prove that the fact that they're a hero once they're out in the battlefield. So it's like that. All of this goes to say that we need to train during the day, right? We need to train during the day, and as a result, we'll then be able to train at night. As the teachings instruct us, we should train unceasingly, both day and night. And in that way, we need to also train during the bardo of dreams and liberate the bardo of dreams into luminosity. And settle the mind in its natural state without distractions. Whether, as I said, mind here refers to Rigpa, natural awareness, not conceptual mind. By settling it in that way, one comes to recognize dreams and train in transformation and clear light. So this refers to these three types of levels of being able to practice in the bardo of dreams. First of all, recognizing dreams, which is the lesser level, then train in transformation, which is the middling level, and then clear light or luminosity, the best superior level.
Milam Bardos second the Congressana, Kema, Dala, Milam Bardo, Chartu, Timuronyal, Pame, Pangche, Ne, Temba Yang, Nilu Nanglan, Jo, Milam Sune, Tulgiro, Jang, Sonre, the Peshila Shimbodo. Then Dala, Sataran last over it. Milam Bardo, Chartu, Milam Second, Nila Sonjoti, Nangla, Milam Severe. Then you can ni Masung la mare. Ni set Harry Jesoyam mare. Deep Parker till a nigger till a Milam so. Tatina Migin till a Milam, Nawa till a Milam Severe. Milam Second. Nila Masung Tatik and Naga Maimba, Tantangarazo Yinger and Nawatia, Maimba, Sangi Shoba and Nawatia, Maimba, Nilas on the time, Shoba now and sell a Nisang Jam dedicated in the mare. You can like Nigi, Tine, Ni Shorne, Ni Masake part Nawatela, Milam Pardosa, Tandilayang.
I must not simply stumble like an animal, so don't just lie around. Don't just sleep like a pig, like a cow, or what have you. Don't waste your time. But combine sleep with realization. This is crucial. So apply the practice that you cultivate during the day at nighttime to your sleep. This is crucial. Okay, we will pause here and take a 30-minute break, and then we will resume the teaching.
지금 원시에 나왔더라야 또서 남겨를 빼면 양아랑 시주 대화식 인구의 랑신의 여비 균생에 저거 저도 신바 책가 시와 나라 밀람 당부 미게서 유튜브 밀람 미게 나시 양 인구 따다 릭도 간도 드림 밀렘이 다와 카시 로카시 전 티틱 로겐다고 된다 라마 첨부 많이 망한 지대 규마라야 된다 연구 티 강에서나 지디 데버시고 인 보랑중 그리고 예비게 짤되게 뒤뒤다 티 뇽뇽을 하나 빼미기 뇽뇽 미 밑에 찌를 테마 내리니래도 사실 때 옹게야 말 카시 갈리 연구래 티 때비게 밀람 디트도 망고죠 티 인디 따티래 다 밀람게 바르도 처리 뒤도 티무 로냐 밤에 마니네서 나미나 냐래 추제 게고에 딱 해서 타wen기 미디 추제 중이 원래 열고서 막 특직 중이 바르도 냐기면 얘네 지금 냐르제도 쇼고 추제 고와 바르도 냐르다 따때 공조면도 중이 바르도 냐르다 텐데 인도가 진짜 신에 되게 매래 쇼바도 냐르지가 랑가즈 냐르 가로 랑가즈 야 랑나 티니 야고요 수불 표티나 야가요레 냠레나야 티 거그래 인도가 나랑 속에 있는 담가서나 쇼바 냐르지가 랑가세 냐르 쇼바 나오 야 랑나 대자 함탐지 땅바지는 쇼주기 야가 단 도나 딱 냠네 간지 지고 있는데 밀음디 파르도디 모셰와 지고래 밀음 모셰와 제발라 닝거 곰네 냠네 지고르 마도 신 생라 모셰 투고 메래 된 라비나 밀음 미규메게 고세 니 워설 데니 밀음 짠네 메데바 거 추궁아 네데게 딱 밀음 라비티레 니와티 밀음 이나야 데네 거퍼라 나란소이나 밀음 뚫기르기 쳐 밀음 나 뚫바케토 봐 싱감론 로겐도 셈젤라 펜도겐도 랑게 랑 찍레 랑 야니야 바 뚫토겐도 셈제 망보라 펜도 토겐게 tinda 뚫기르게 메라 티 밀음 정화 니바 밀음 숨바티 밀음 모시니 디 밀음 레아 섬게 하고 주디야 티네 양 냠리 또 예베 따르마 밀음 모시기마 tin데 미가 티숨요 딱 tin수 탐지데 소 강라라 레고르데 닝거게 냠릴라 페나 까딱 측주에 나레 흔두 토글에 이나레 진짜게 냠네 야고 제때문에 생거게 밀음디 고 싱그레 tiene tiene que está tiene amlen te ta te la mangu yo ta togel na pe mangu she she set milam ge sung se gen da ta ta naran zo in din la she ge in jutuk na na milam se gen da ta oya ta mangu she ge yo re tiene parsun se milam se ta tiene mangu ta tiene mangu lab she na yende na bu jin zon lab ge na pe ya di korona la mangu ji lab ge yo ta do kan yin na me na ya milam di ngo she wa ji go re milam di ngo she na pardo la pardo ngo she ge milam la milam min ber she na pardo la pardo nge mangu she tinde milam di ngo she ge pe ke chambre 인데 밀음 모셔버 제발라 이거 공단 ял도 그 두바 다셔게 냠네서 된 알아서 니 로설다 테니 이렇게바테네 고오다 테니 ял투게 이나 티 왕게 테네 셈 출게 말에 셈 맞출도 강라 나와든지 양다 왔나 그래 야나 지금 알아서 사이게 나와도 보지 곱디 지 계속 나와드나 아파이게 나와드나 마장 테네 야 밀음디야 답아 마도 메다마 미미래 다 진짜게 공단 밀음디 오설 장당 망고 줘래 다 밀음 망고지 인가라 아곰 세겐도 알레 오서 트르 세겐도 다 되네 오서 트르 되네 다 된게 셰바 몽고저 다 진짜 몽고 랍시는 의식이 냠네 몽고지도 랍시나 투수게 상게 말해라 때티 인도 단도 강에는 릭방 모슨 고래 저버치베 내가서 릭방 모슨에 되네 탐치 릭비게 잘림 바 하고서나 밀람나라 밀람랑체 탐지 릭비 잘래 하고서 반죠 밀람 출구 말해 랍나 밀람 타도 그래 딩나 밀람 때네 거라para 출기르 쳇도 그래 타마야 밀람라 밀람 모셰네 땡 알아서 시스템을 신나게 빼나 밀람 모셔나 디다 셔보 중나 밀람 레삼네 디다 당로도 오야 얘네 빼미기 알아서게 제 가능 좀 보시우죠 밀람 레삼나 가능데 야로도 도나 티기 때문에 밀람도 모셔나 파연 좀 보시우요래 다티 전부 다스는 보지 때는 선거도 딱 알아 단다게 빼 드라다니라 차방 먹고 여기 바로도 내가 또 트롤투고 말이야 소 다데게 나완 딜라티네 셴바 중 드라 년 분랑게 사상 포죽 균노 롱체 탐딜레 셴바메네 탐시 밀람도 규마다 버리 에세네 닝거 때네 타와 똥이 이나레 깨르미나 조르미나 조바침베 나와탄 탐시 밀람도 기마도 셰게 미디 밀람게 네캅소야 탐시 밀람게 나와 임바데 장수 그래 티인도 강타 다디게 나와라 시우지 셴바 요팅에 밀람 나라야 셴바게 때네 띵직 띵든 레 밀람 나라 셴난 깨갑 무 깨갑 총들에 지게 때네 진득이 셴바 요긴데 바르도게 네캅 싸워는 트롤투고 말해서 냠네 야고 요메티 밀람 못다다 하고 냠네 야고 요메게 때 깬년바 내나자 드트고 용도 강 때네 랑기 올다 투도 미도 따주 티하고 그래 마랑서는 미 잉첨부 요메 빠오 요메데 증살 lep도 강때 빠오 첨부 요메 하고도 디마도 나빠 첨부 시윙라도 미 증살 lep도 트로도 디메 디나신 지게 냠네 야고 요거스 깬년바 내나자 용도 강라 드트고 용도 강라 때네 원에게 냠네 요메도 하고 그래서 디인도 강라 단 밀람디 나랑서 닝거 야고 장투나 밀람나라 장투 그래 때때 단 닝거 장주 다 천라양 잘고 다 인진 뒤쪽도 얌네 찍어서 단디 바로 또 쓰긴데 인다 천 탐jel라 천라 밀람라양 때네 리빙 올라 네와 제네 티무 워설 첨부 드르시자 나 추잉도나 그나 송도 어디 티무 워설 첨부 드르시자 다 미도 워설 나나 때네 그렇게 티무 워설 첨부 드르시자 티인데 템바 영미 nilu ngangla jo se temba yengme se de gindi temba se ni chungi gi temba se temba se gindi ngaranzo temba se marin di temba se gindi chungi gi temba rikpa se rangjung rikpa temba yengme nilu ngangla jo se temba se nilu gi tundi yangwa mebi gi ngangla te kyong se teni nyaldu ngangla yang rikbi ngangla mar nyol so milam sunni tulgir wasa jang ta milam gi ngosum milam la tulgir che milam ingsu tan dan de sunda milam ngosum wa ti tapsha gore tulgir segendi tiletare wasal du jang segendi te milam tsane meba ngara milam tsane meba tene karo ngara zoina milam ingsu ta song je ti se ta milam sungar dunde milam ngosum tulgir wasal jang se do ti sungar de milam rabro sum de jang gore eso